How many of you here know what vibe coding is? Okay. It just sounded really cool, right? It's a cool presentation. I think this is probably one of the coolest presentations that we'll have here. Well, besides the product stuff, right? One of the things about vibe coding, it's for those of you who don't know, well, first of all, English is the new programming language. So if you're worked really hard to learn your Python skills or your JavaScript skills or SQL, I don't think you need that anymore, right? But in all seriousness, English is becoming the language of large language models and AI, how we communicate with them, how we kind of make them do what we want to do. It was called prompt engineering last year or the last couple of years. A lot of you have probably done some courses around prompt engineering, but it has evolved, right? So what AI can do today and what these agentic systems can do today is much more powerful. You saw a lot around that in our presentations on how we can very quickly build these agents, with just plain English. You don't have to think about the prompts anymore. So what vibe coding is, you just tell the AI what to do. You don't read the code. Just follow the vibes, right? But it started with this guy called Andrej Karpathy, and he's an ex-Tesla engineer, OpenAI. He's one of the thought leaders in large language models. He's one of the authors also of the Attention is All You Need, which kind of made possible all of the kind of LLM world today. And this quote is from earlier this year, or this is an X or a tweet. But essentially, he said that, hey, there's this new kind of coding I call vibe coding, where we fully give into the vibes, embrace exponentials, and forget that the code even exists. It's possible because LLMs are getting too good. They're getting too good. Also, I just want to talk about, all of the tools that he used, but essentially, this tweet then sparked a whole. He named what the process of working with AIs and coding with AI. This kind of English first, LLM first. You ask it what to do. You kind of go through it. You don't have to be a programmer anymore in order to accomplish things. And even programmers today, I have a lot of my engineering team here, so we use Cursor as one of the tools. But even today, even the engineers, they're using English to essentially write a lot of the code, and that's going to continue to become more and more relevant as we kind of continue on. Well, how does it work, right? When you think about it, we're going to do a lot of demos today, and we're going to do some hands-on, but I just wanted to set the context a little bit. So you literally describe what you want. You just tell it and type it in plain English. The AI interprets the request. So there's an agent in there. It kind of understands, it interprets the request. And then it understands what your intent is, and it writes the code for you. You can go back and refine it. So make small tweaks, customize some details, or adjust whatever logic that you want. And then you run it and iterate it. So AI can suggest improvements and help debug issues in real time. So it's a loop, right? We talked a lot about agents today and how they think, reason, adapt, think, reason, adapt. It's the same exact loop here. And these are coding agents. So all vibe coding is powered by a lot of the coding agents. And there's a lot of products or applications that are available today that you can use to do vibe coding and actually real products or put real projects together. So today we're going to be using Lovable, which is one of my favorites, and I've been using it quite a bit. But Lovable is a general purpose. You can build almost anything with it. You can build prototypes, you can build real applications, you can build websites with it. And then if we go so we have Lovable and then Bolt.new, not to be confused with Bolt.ai from Element, but Bolt.new is another website or another application that you can run, edit, deploy web apps there as well. So both of those are very, very similar. They might have some differences I have just started to use Lovable for quite a bit, and we're going to use that today. And then when we go to the right, we have Cursor, which is it's an amazing tool, but it gives you access to a lot more, right? So a lot of engineers are using it. It doesn't mean that you can't use it as well. It's just that it gives you access to behind the scenes a little bit more than a Lovable would, or some of these other applications that do a lot bit more. Cursor, by the way, they're one of the fastest growing companies out there. I believe they're about 500 million in ARR in just like less than a year. So you can see how much demand there is for these tools to essentially accelerate coding right now. And then last but not least, there's Replit. Replit has a Replit agent. There used to be a platform where you can deploy applications online. We're going to try to use Replit for building a Chrome extension. So that's kind of what we're going to do today, right? So we're going to vibe code a few things, and maybe you get some inspiration to do that stuff for you internally as you're kind of working with internal teams as well. Any questions before we get started? We're good? All right, let's do it. So the first thing that we're going to do is I've put together a whole bunch of stuff. Oh, by the way, I found this image to be, there's also those developers who are like, well, you know what, this whole vibe coding thing is not really a thing, because if you need to tell it to fix something in Cursor, fix it again. So it's like, if you know what you're doing, you're going to get there a lot faster, and you're just going to fix it. But these tools are just going to take you forever, and it's going to frustrate you. So I thought about this meme, and it was really interesting. So I just put it in there. But what we're going to focus on today is Lovable, and we're going to ask it to build a couple of things for us. The first thing that we're going to ask it to build, and again, I worked with ChatGPT to kind of collaborate and say, well, I have this group, and let's work together to find some good use cases for what we can build, together. And in this case, I asked it to help me build a kind of a dashboard, a funnel dashboard enrollment. And I have a few different kind of progressions of prompts in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look, and I think I'm logged in already, but so lovable.dev, that's the website. And when you go in there, you can obviously take a look at some of the apps, but I'm logged in. It's free for a certain amount of apps, but let's go ahead and do that. So copy that, build me a live dashboard that tracks our funnel from inquiry to enrollment and tells me why numbers change. Very simple idea, but you can see how the agents are working through that already, trying to build that application. It's writing code, it's writing real code, so you can see exactly what's happening in here, right? So it's writing code. Obviously, it's going to take a few minutes to actually complete this and start finishing and start writing that. But at the end of it, we get to see, what it built, and then we can start iterating with it already. Okay, so Curious Enrollment Lens, that's the project that it decided for us. It's writing a few more things. And again, this is, it's going to write the things that it thinks you want, what the intent is of that prompt that you gave it. Now, one additional thing that we can do in here, as this starts building, I've already added a few. I've had a few additional. Let me go back here to my workspace, and I've already done a few of those insights, but I can go ahead and let's see. I just want to show you guys when it actually finishes and builds that. All right, let's open another one and let's continue the process, right? So the next process that we're going to do is, in this case, you can go in and ask follow-up questions. And rather than, putting all the big prompt together, we can expand that. And right now, we can, what I did in here is I went ahead and said, okay, now pull those apps, admits, deposits, and enrolls for fall 26. Show me year-over-year deltas, melt risk, and sample headcounts, forecasting, and explain it, every spike or dip in plain English. So this is something that would come through as a request, but you can kind of continue that process, right? Let's see if it actually finished, but we can actually do that and expand it. But rather than, I've already built that, I'm going to expand it a little bit more. And I'm going to ask it, here's another one, to say, use CRM exports that I'll give you via file upload, add a CSV template example. And then you're going to surface the KPIs by term, program, and recruiter, and then predict some yield logistic regressions here. So you can see how we can kind of continue on building on that, original prompt. All right, let's see if it actually built anything for us in here. Not yet. He hasn't finished that project yet. So let's go back to it. Oh, okay. So remember when we said fix it? So now you can tell it again, try to fix it. It went through and it did all the work, and it's now going to, so whatever we gave it, it built that application, and this is kind of what it came up with. I would say that for me, prototyping now becomes a lot easier for me to hand this off to a team or prototype kind of a product feature, but you can also start prototyping things internally. So I just gave you an example of an enrollment funnel dashboard here. But like I said, we can go ahead and start adding additional kind of layers to it. And like I said, what I did earlier is I told it, I'm like, okay, well, I want to give you a CSV of our data, and I want to be able to upload that. And you can take that and then also now extract it and make sure that you give me this reports based on that CSV. So I've already built that project in here. And this was yesterday. So you can see the first prompt that I gave it, build me a live dashboard. It built me that dashboard. I went ahead and said, use the CRM export, and then give me a one sentence, and it already went ahead and built it. So in this case, it gave me a CRM upload, but it also sometimes, remember that it's like one of the things that we always forget. It's like, well, what's the layout of that file that it needs? What's that data? So in this case, it actually built me a little, download in here so I can take a look and see what it looks like. So this is a little template. Of course, you can go ahead and tell it, here's the columns or here's the fields that I want to upload, and then just start building that for me. The point here is you can see that the application is pretty cool. It's you can filter on terms, you can filter on everything, programs, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of dummy data underneath this, right? So you're not going to be able to see some of the data, but also you can visualize some of the insights that it's available as part of that, and it's using kind of those LLMs underneath. All right, so let's move on to example number 2. So this is a simple, hey, let's take a look at what we can do, and let's see, like, what are some of the things that these LLMs have the ability to prototype with us with very simple prompts. The next one I was going to use, it's a kind of this social listening and sentiment dashboard. And I wanted to understand, I'm like, okay, I asked ChatGPT and I said, give me some examples and think about like why are these useful and why does this matter? So I literally just copied and pasted, what it told me. And in this case, it said social listening. It's built as an internal dashboard that automatically tracks what students and the public are saying about the college. And then I just added a, cmo.edu in here because I use them for everything in terms of our examples. And I'm just going to copy this, but rather than me doing that, I already have done that. So, rather than going through that timeline right now, let's go and take a look at that application that it built. So here's that big prompt that I gave it, and it went ahead and started to think through and say, hey, I'm going to build you a real-time sentiment monitoring, trending topics, social platform coverage, interactive charts, alert system, and so on and so forth. So it's building all those pieces together, and here's kind of what he came up with. And not bad, right? I mean, traditionally this stuff would take, weeks and weeks to work with a designer and a team to actually start getting this stuff done. All right, so a little bit more work in here, but the idea is that you are able to code a lot of these applications now on your own. Let's continue one more. And in this case, I wanted to build a marketing intelligence Chrome plugin. So again, this is me talking to ChatGPT and saying, hey, what would be some good use cases in here? So you have Chrome plugins are very, very powerful. For those of you who don't know, you can build your own and you can kind of install your own locally. So in this case, we can go ahead and start building one. And what I did is I built one with Replit. So I'm going to log into Replit, and I'm going to there we go. So I just plopped that link in Replit, and I told it, why don't you just build me a Chrome plugin? I have no idea how to build Chrome plugins, by the way. So this is my first time doing it. And it built me a Chrome plugin. It gives me a whole bunch of files. But I'm like, what the hell? What do I know? I don't know anything about, where to install these files. So I asked it, hey, can you just zip these files for me to download so I can install them? And it actually understood what I wanted to do. And it said, hey, no problem. Here they are. Here are the files. And by the way, in order to install them, you might want to go to Chrome, extract those files, go to Chrome extensions, right? And let's do that. And it's going to say, turn on developer mode. Turn on developer mode. Click load that zip that he gave you, and then you can just, install it. And that's exactly what I did, right? So I just followed it. And it's incredible. It's crazy that you can actually do this. This would take weeks, months sometimes to just give it to a developer so they can do this kind of work, or somebody who's pretty, technical in actually doing it. This took just a couple of minutes. So I have it, right? So I have this Chrome plugin that he gave me. It says EDU competitor, educational marketing, competitive marketing intelligence for educational institutions. And now when I go to my Chrome plugins, let's pop that open and oops. Not sure why it's not working. I can reinstall it again. I don't know exactly. It probably couldn't find it. So let's just download it again and then go through that process. So I can just download it and open it up, extract it, go to my Chrome here, extensions, and load one. And I'm going to go to my downloads, and select that. There we go. So now, if I go to it again, it says it only works on institutional websites. Look at this. It actually built me a whole setup as well for it. I'm like, holy shit, I didn't even know you did that. So I can add whatever competitors that I want to track in here. I just added Harvard.edu because CMO competes with Harvard, of course. It is very close. Yeah, I know. But there's other settings in here, and then the reports as well in terms of how many times have we kind of done this analysis on different sites. So it actually built all of that stuff for us. So I can go in there and I can set that up. But if I go to, Harvard.edu now, and I click my extension, it's actually going to go ahead and do some analysis on that website. Now imagine that you have like tasks in your browser or things that you want to automate that your browser can do, like things like filling forms, or if you have an SIS and you're like, hey, I always copy these fields from here to here, I have this data, or I need to analyze these things. Like Chrome plugins are very, very powerful, and you can now tell it exactly what you want, and you can build a Chrome plugin that does a lot of that work. And this is kind of the very entry level. With Lovable, you can also build websites as well, right? So you can build, you can build other websites. And in this case, let's kind of do this together. Like, what is an example of a website that you feel like you wanna build that you just don't have enough time doing? Putting you guys on a spot. Anyone? No? All right. So I'll create. Yes. Build me alumni magazine website for we use the same what school while we're in SEMO. All right, so we'll just put the so we can put a few more things in here, right? So the alumni magazine, you can kind of come up with like the style that you want. So style photo forward, we want dark, not so big, contrast, and so on and so forth. So let's do that, and then let's see if it can build me. It can build me that website. But as that goes through, I want to stop and see if there's any questions that you guys have right now. Yeah. Yeah. Download button first. Yeah. So let's go take a look at kind of what it's built before, and then we're going to go to this once it's done. So let's go to that path to enrollment insights. So let's take a look at this. Here you can see, of course, it's mobile because it knows that, but there is a little switch in here on the top. You can go to code mode, and you're going to see all the code that it built. So yes, you can download the code, or you can publish it, and you can actually publish it in Lovable, which is a hosting. They do the hosting as well. So you can publish it directly through there, and you guys can go take a look at that, with this URL. Of course, you can put custom domains in there as well. And the really cool thing is that sometimes it just said you just shipped it. So copy the link. We'll go paste it. And that's that website in here, right? So now it's live. Everybody can go ahead and take a look at that website. But the part that's really cool, let's go back to it, is that, you can download this code as well if you want to host it somewhere else, and that's completely okay. So the tools of use for this, it's obviously, JavaScript and HTML, and it uses a lot of the, React components, but you can tell it what other libraries you want to use. So you can tell it, I want to use this library to do visualizations like a p5.js or some other libraries. And I know for some of you, this is probably going over your head and like, I don't know, Ardis, I have no idea what the frick you're talking about. But but the idea here is that these tools, like it should not take you a month to build some prototypes or to build some of these, websites now, or to build some of these applications. It should take you maybe just a couple of hours to kind of test this prototyping, and then you can actually, release full-blown applications. This internal tools specifically, these are getting really good. One other part that's really important here is, of course, this application will need real data. So now we can kind of go ahead and vibe again, and we can say, hey, by the way, I need to upload some real data. I need this data to be stored. I need an authentication. And it connects with Supabase. I don't know if you, of course, if you're not a developer, but essentially Supabase is gives you a backend for a website, like a database and all these different things out of the box. So it's a really, really awesome platform that scales. So Lovable can actually create all those database components and tables and backend and logins and everything that it needs, and connect it to this app as well. And you can see that in here as well, right? You just have to connect it to your Supabase account, and it will actually go ahead and do all that work for you. So pretty impressive. The other thing that's really cool in here is you probably might not like some of these tools, and there is this component in here. You can go in and edit, and you can now, rather than, so it gives you that flexibility of just completely vibe coding, but then getting a little bit closer to it. So you can come in and you can just make this, it's like, you say, hey, this is my CMO enrollment dashboard, and you can kind of modify that just like you would, and it gives you that ability. But also you can come in here and say, you know what, I don't really like this whole section. I want to replace it with something else. So you can just talk to it in English, just like think about like you have a very genius programmer underneath that can do a lot of that work for you. All right. Is there any other questions before I go back and take a look at see if it's built the alumni? It hasn't built that yet. It's still going.
There it is. How about integrations with other tools? So you build something, how would you integrate it with HubSpot or, an Element for that matter?
That's a good question. I don't know. So you can also give it, one of the things that you can do is you can point, especially in that box, you can point it to API documentation for an external system, and you can provide some of the instructions to build I won't say an integration, but say you can call this API, and here's the API documentation, and then you will actually build the, that kind of hookup or that integration in there as well. So in this case, we could, the HubSpot APIs are pretty open. The Element APIs are pretty open. I can just give it the URL to the specific API and say, figure it out. And that's the beautiful part about this, is that you don't need to know. It's using kind of the reasoning behind the scenes, and using the API and saying, oh, okay, I know how to call APIs. I know how to, here's the formatting, here's kind of what it needs. I'm going to build that for you and do that integration. I did build one more example here, and what I did is I went in and I said, hey, I want a PDF document or this boring report that I usually get or whatever. So the only one I could find is one from Wake Tech, the foundation, and it was a PDF document. And by the way, here's what the report looks like. It's a financial statement. Now, don't trust me on those numbers because I don't know if it did the extraction okay, um, but this is what this is the report that I gave it, and here's the prompt, right? Can you guys see it? So I say, create a beautiful interactive website and dashboard for the Wake Take Community College that showcases the Foundation Inc. and subsidiaries consolidated financial statement. Here's the report. Do not fake data. I don't know if it worked or not, but so pretty quick. After a little bit, it actually gave me, it put together the report, just very high level components in here, and I did some spot checking, Brian, and I think it looked okay, but obviously you'll have to judge it. And it built a report, obviously linked directly to the report. It understands the WebTech website. It put together just the overview, the financial statements around it, activities year over year, net asset analysis, which is pretty cool, this revenue analysis, and then expense analysis, and then about the foundation as well, because there's a lot about the foundation data in there. So if you want to be a hero, take one of these reports and vibe code it, and then you get something like this, and then you do some spot checking. Even if you have to update some of those numbers yourself, you can hit share or publish, and then now you can send it to everybody. Most of the reports that we get, that can be any type of report, they're pretty dense, right? So it can take you, this is probably one of the best examples that very actionable for you right now in terms of publishing, this type of data. All right, let's go back and see if it actually finished our website. And I know we have just 5 more minutes, but here we go. I think it did finish it. Oh, look at that. I mean, I think we'll put Tanya out of work right now. Or no, I'm just kidding. So it built a website, and you can see how you can kind of go ahead and change it. You can take a look at stories, alumni, different section, news events about, with just that simple prompt. Obviously, the more detail that you give it, the better it's going to get at producing something like this, and you can publish it, and just send it out. I mean, that's pretty. I would say that's pretty easy to do at this point, and you don't have to rely on weeks and weeks or months of design and so on and so forth. You can also iterate with this. You can see over here down at the bottom it says connect Supabase, manage knowledge. One of the great things about these tools is that you can kind of feed it your data sources, just like you update knowledge base in Element to understand what it is. It will kind of go through the same process in order to pull information. So you can upload your documents or your board reports or whatever, and then say use that knowledge in order to build these different assets or these different apps. All right, so those are the different examples that I have for today. I only have a couple more minutes. I think we're almost done in here, but any other questions before we kind of leave vibe coding? Yeah.
Hello. My name is Bermesia Parks. I'm from Mock Community College. I do want to say thank you for this presentation because I have a background in computer science, so I program for a living, but I've been trying this out myself, and I'm like, it's growing on me. But what you have shown me today, I'm thinking this is one where I could possibly use some work study students, get them skilled up.
Yes.
So
100%.
I'm very excited now.
Yep. So we wanted to put together, whenever I do these presentations, I'm like, whatever I'm doing and I'm into it, I'm like, oh, somebody might be really interested in this thing that I'm actually using myself. So you're probably going to notice a bunch of those presentations that I'm doing, things like this one, the deep learning that I probably have tomorrow or later today. I'm not sure if it's later today. But yeah, those are the use cases. So I'm actually doing this stuff myself, and it's gotten me really excited about building stuff again and getting, it's good. It's great.
Can I get? Oh, there we go. So, Ardis, we actually have a question on the app for this session for Q&A, which is pretty cool. How might vibe coding transform the way students and educators approach app development, and what potential does it hold for increasing accessibility in tech education?
It's a deep question.
Right? Leave it to the WOVA app people that are popping letters,
Yeah,
asking the
yeah.
deep ones.
Well, look, I think, I used to teach mobile application development, and this was a decade and a half plus, 20 years ago, and this was like at the beginning of iOS development, where we're going between HTML5, iOS, Flash back then. So I used to teach, and we just had so many, from teaching the basics to getting some kind of a prototype by the end of the class was just like pulling teeth with the students. And they hated it because you had to learn the basics, and they didn't see the final product. They came in with these great ideas, but they weren't able to execute them because things were falling apart. So this really changes a lot of things. Now you can start with ideas and prototypes, and you can iterate very, very quickly. And when you think about education and how that's evolving, it's all about, well, I need to, kind of collaborating and need to understand how that idea really transforms, and then go through the process, right? So it's like I need that hook, right? I need that hook to kind of continue and to keep going, to learn more, and why would I do it for that outcome? So now we can do that a lot faster. And rather than having one big project for the class, you can have 10, 20, 30 projects, and you can get those prototypes done a lot faster. So for technical education, specifically programming and so on and so forth, I think this is a huge unlock. It's a huge unlock because it's about producing stuff rather than teaching a technical skill like programming. Programming teaches you how to think. It's not about the skill of actually producing code. It's not about the production of code. It's about the production of, a final product or something, how to solve a problem with that tool of programming. So this kind of closes that loop, and now you can iterate a lot faster on your idea of how to think through it. And now you can get, you can do 20 cycles of that thinking a lot faster than when you're just, writing the code yourself. Huge unlock, I would say.
Awesome. Thanks. One more question right over here.
So as someone in IT, I love everything I've seen. The first thing I think of is somebody starts going off on one of the applications.
Yeah.
Are there guardrails in place so that, I think FERPA, PCI, privacy and stuff like that we put in place so that your student data hasn't gone somewhere that you're not expecting it as well?
The answer is that stuff, you still need those guardrails. You can't assume that this student is like, hey, I have access to the database, and here's my credentials, and now build me an app. And by accident, the agent decided to say, you know what, after we do these things, I need to delete all the tables. And it's like, well, wait a minute, I had real data in there. So the answer is no, that a lot of that stuff is not quite there yet. So don't use it for, obviously you have to go through your security checks and everything else on how to deploy applications safely and securely. So it doesn't remove any of that work.
All right.
All right.
Awesome. Everyone, let's hear it for Ardis.
Thanks, everybody.